Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Thanks so much for joining me today. And I am super excited to have the Dave Johnson on my channel all the way from Australia. So this is going to be really exciting. Thank you so much for joining me, Dave. How are you?
My pleasure. I'm really good. Yeah, and I love being the David Johnson. There's so many of us.
That's how we denote which one you are, and then we throw in the Australia thing. So we're pretty close to, we got it down to 100. We're less than 100, yes. Dave Johnson.
That could be closer, yeah.
That is awesome. Well, I am thrilled to have you here, and there's so many things we could talk about, but we decided to talk about ascension. We decided we just were chatting about our clients and our own situation. It just seems like the energy is really being a little more forthcoming regarding ascension. And we're both noticing that a lot of our clients are having experiences, maybe any number of different types of experiences. And we thought we would just chat with each other and give you guys some tips, pointers, or even just our own experiences of what we went through that might be able to be helpful for you. Sound like a plan?
A great plan.
And I think everybody knows you because you're like the Dave Johnson. But if you guys don't know the Dave Johnson, he channels just like I do, a very kind of similar process. So check out his channel, which is Moonride. Is your YouTube channel Moonride as well?
Yes.
Okay, your YouTube channel is Moonride, and your website is www.moonride.com/au.
I think it's .au.
.au. I'll put the correct website and all his information in the description of this video, because you're going to want to check out his YouTube channel and you're going to want to check out his website because he's got all these videos on there. And you do are you still doing classes?
Yeah.
I still channeling classes. You guys want to know how to talk to your spirit guides? You're looking at the man right here. So check out his website. He can teach you how to channel, and that's really important for people. And I think that would be very helpful for people, especially right now. Can I ask you a question, actually? Because I was just thinking about this today. So I often say, and I often feel that the veil between the worlds is thinning. I mean, that's just one way to say it. Other people say humans' pineal gland is more activated. So one way to look at it would be, this is an internal process that we are now more accessible to these other energies. And another way to look at it is, this is an external process, and there's something external that's happening that's lessening, that's going to allow me to have more access to these entities. Do you have a feeling for that? I mean, what do you think? Do you feel like, yes, that's one of the reasons why we're all having more experiences?
Well, all of those explanations I think are accurate. And I think we could just look at this and say, is it physical, is it external, is it internal? And it's all of those things. One thing about spirit is it can admit total contradictions, right? In the place where nothing makes sense, it makes sense. I would say three things on it. First of all is Dolores Cannon, and she anticipated this. And if you read her book, she's expected this, because when she had people out in hypnosis, they would start to say, hey, this is what's going to happen, and this is who's going to do it. And the other thing that I'm fortunate, when I'm teaching people to channel, I will get them to ask questions about themselves and their own lives. But sometimes they're like, okay, can we just put in a general question? Just, let's just see what spirit has to say about this. And I specifically asked about that. And one of my clients, a total believer, everything she said has totally come true. As you know, it's like this thing happens, and there's this fork in the road, and you have to choose. You have to go one way or another. At this point, there's no passive. We just can't go, yeah, whatever. We are no longer a passive. We've gotten to the point where, just as in politics, you really had to choose right and left. There's no centrists anymore. It's not really possible to be that centrist. Because in being the centrist, you're kind of being a passive person, right? And not doing what we all need to do, which is exist in consciousness. And in that path, really, people are being confronted by the spirit, and they're being said, this is spirit. You can either go this way and you can follow that spirit path, or you reject it and you go another path. And that other path is just all of the political things that you've seen, just people saying, no, it's not true. No, it's not true. No, the planet is fine. Smoking's good for you. And really, people are choosing that sort of anti-choice in a way, that denial. So for those people who are going in this direction, keep in mind, it's not like a piece of cake. It's not all like not like the 60s, 1968, we're all like dancing and dropping acid and learning all these new things. And, it's not like that at all. Just as you've noted, a lot of clients are just going, God, this is really confusing. If you're in any kind of family in America right now, you probably have siblings you can't talk to about politics, if you can talk to them at all. It really has been a difficult choice this time. And it's just, like any other spiritual practice, it's not easy. And making the decision to do it is just like, Buddha. It's just, you're giving up a lot to go in that direction, and you're really trusting an inner guidance that you never trusted before, right? All of us are just out there, and we used to be reflected in particular ways. And you're like, here's our job, this is who I am. Here's my family, this is who I am. I'm American, this is who I am. All of those things are now being questioned. So if y'all are out there and you're having a lot of like problems right now, kind of trying to figure it out, it's exceptionally normal. By all means, do the things that help. Watch the videos that help. Listen to the music that helps. Go outdoors. I noted one of your great videos where you're talking about outdoors being such great medicine. I've always said that is like the best medicine, and it really does facilitate this work.
It really does. It'll ground you. It'll relax you. I mean, Mother Nature just is this transmuter of energy, right? So, what about, because this is something that I'm noticing, and I love the way you said, it's sort of like a path, like in the past, I feel like we did choose, and I did, I was a photographer for 23 years. You know what I mean? I didn't know I was a psychic, but I knew I was a medium because I could see ghosts and I could talk to them, but that scared the living daylights out of me. So basically I said, I'm never doing that. I'm not ever doing that. Right. Like, you can't make me do that. But what happens is when you choose that other path, and it's your soul path to be over here on the spiritual path, they'll just continue putting situations in your path until you have to face it, until you call one of us and you say, like, I love it when clients say to me, you've probably never heard this before. And I'm thinking 99% chance I have heard this before. But for us, it's like super weird and super disconcerting. So some of these people that have chosen the path and there's no judgment. There's literally, I'm not judging. There's no judgment, but you chose this path. Perhaps it was work. Perhaps it was raising children. Perhaps it was whatever it was, a different avocation. But you start having these experiences that you can't explain. And then for me, like, this is what happened to you, I think, when your friend, who's an intuitive person, but not a psychic person, is certainly not aware of their psychic abilities, basically delivered an edict to you. You know what I mean? Like, this is what's going to happen. This is who you're going to meet. And this is where you're going to live. Just like, I used to call it psychic diarrhea, which is not very nice, but so this is what happened to me. I'm photographing people and I'm telling them things about their life, and I'm behind the camera, not realizing what I'm doing, but I see the shocked face through the viewfinder. And I'm like, what did I just say? And they're like, wait, how do you know that I'm going to do that? I didn't tell you. And I would have to make up some lie or kind of cover it up, but to me, that's kind of how they say, no, honey, you're going to come right over to this path. You took that path, but it's not the right one for you. We're going to help you. And that's where I think a lot of people are now, right? It's like a little bit of a heavy-handedness spirit is using.
Very similar thing happened to me.
Did it
Very
really?
similar to your story of, no, I do not want to be a psychic. I do not want to know the future. How useful is that? All it is just going to burden me with all this weight. And I had a friend who just dragged me kicking and screaming into this work. Yeah,
I did
more than one
too.
friend, actually.
I did too. I was actually dating that friend, kicked me in my butt, like was so rude and so pushy and then also saying, you're never going to do it, just like doing every kind of thing. And I'm like, my God, this is the worst relationship. But that was the point of the relationship, was to get me to do, and it did, it pushed me over the edge to do this work. So if you guys are having people in your life that are encouraging you, or another funny thing is if you go to your psychic and you ask a question and the psychic answers it and you tell us, 3 people have told me that same thing. It's like, well, then hello, what else do you want? A red carpet? You want a billboard on the freeway? How many? When are you going to believe us?
Yeah.
Good Lord, you know?
And a lot of it isn't psychic. I mean, some people are just really good at Reiki. And I think one thing that's really interesting that has evolved, and I say this over and over, this is not the time to follow a guru. It's about you and your spirituality. Go, by all means, listen to people and take what's valuable for you, because you might not be a psychic. You might be more a Reiki person, or this person or that person. Or you might just want to be a bit more spiritual in your lives. And the spiritual practice, this is very common, just takes the form of walking down the street, spreading the light. There's more than one person. I know that is what they are supposed to do. And of course, I often speak to people who are 70, 80. This is happening. What could I possibly have to offer? And I'm always like,
they do say
forget your age. Forget about it. What do you have to offer? It's like the ice cream on your cake, It's just like, really, like, now is the zest of life, where you as an individual can figure out your relationship to spirit. It's direct, right? There's no religion or person that you have to go through to speak to spirit. Obviously, some skills help, and you need to be a little bit self-evaluating. And as you have pointed out, it's an internal process. So many of you people out there are just managing this internal process, and they don't necessarily have a prescribed method to handle that. And that's the way it should be, because it really means you're learning on your own.
Yeah. I love that, Dave, because the other thing is that the guides were telling me, we're not going to have just Reiki people, just psychics, just mediums. You're going to have people that do Akashic records and numerology mixed together. I know somebody that does QHHT and shamanism and has created her own modality. This is what the guides were saying, is that we're going to grow beyond these labels. And because our abilities are increasing. And so we're just naturally going to be able to do these things. So it makes sense. Don't follow a guru, follow 5 gurus, because you're going to take something from each of those gurus, and then you're going to make yourself your own unique version. And please do not compare yourself to anybody. Ever. It's really tough. If it's not, it doesn't work. And it's debilitating, and it's horrible. And please don't do it. Don't compare yourself, especially in this work. I do things differently. Dave does things differently. Everybody does things differently. As long as you're safe, you're in the light, as long as you want the highest for everybody, it doesn't really matter how you do it.
Yeah, that's so well said. One thing I also noticed about this work as the American guy, it was very difficult access to feelings. I found myself, when I really literally downloaded the whole pyramid thing, because no one taught that to me. It was just a freaking download one day when I was with a client, the heart is actually really valuable, in a sense that we'll get to the doorway and it'll be like, how you feeling about that doorway? And occasionally people are like, I don't really like that doorway. One time, so we get the doorway and it was a refrigerator. And so I'm like, how do you feel about walking through that door? They're like, not so good. I'm like, no. Just push it aside. There's another doorway for you to walk through. And I'm like, oh, wow, it's all about the heart. And when you meet your guide, the same thing. Ask them, show me something from the light. If they can show you something that makes you feel good, that's from the light. Because dark forces will never show you anything from light, because they don't know what it looks like.
Because they don't know what it looks like. Golly, it's like we are so like on the same page. My guide said, that's the litmus test. Like if you want some sort of guaranteed way to make sure that you're always dealing with the right types of energies, it's feeling. It's how do you feel? Do you feel love? Do you feel warmth? Do you feel, God, our guides love us unconditionally. I mean, unconditionally. So if you're feeling anything else, if you're feeling anxiety or being judged or not good enough, those aren't the ones you want to work with.
Right. And oftentimes I would get people, especially in the beginning, get people to a character, and that character would actually be the guard. And it would literally be their fear going, I don't know about this, I don't know about this. And that's actually kind of organic. You don't just like leap out of your body and start channeling stuff. You don't know where you're going to go. Maybe you could do that because that's your nature. But most people are going to be a little bit afraid of that, even if they can do that, or it'll be really, really
It's a good thing.
So they do want to be a little bit careful. So, they're kind of making friends with that guard at the gate. And they would always be dressed the same way. Right? Regardless of the person, they would always look the same. They would always have armor on, like a knight protecting you. And that's, the guard that protects your consciousness, a good person. You just kind of go, yeah, okay, well, what would you like us to do today, guard? And give them a little bit of credit. And then
give them like a sandwich or a cookie or something. I mean, have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I never thought about that. I think the guard's a little too smart for that. But sometimes the guard would actually be really useful and say, not today. We need to go to healing today first.
Oh my God.
And they would just kind of
Yeah. Like a gatekeeper.
Exactly. What? And sometimes they'll be like, all right, I was just checking you out and your method. Now you can go forward. Or even they'd walk you to the guide, the person.
Yeah. I have been checked out before. It's a little intimidating when they scan you, when they kind of check out you're like, forget the airport x-ray machine, you guys. It's like, whoa, what's happening? I'm like, I don't have anything to hide, but it was a different experience.
It is. And sometimes it would seem like super intimidating, even to me as the practitioner. They sometimes they show up and be kind of tough. And one of them joked, "Oh, I'm the devil," to see how I'd react. And I'm like, okay, nice to meet you. What have you got to say? And your lack of fear in that regard would really move you forward. But it is, I would just say to anybody that's like, hey, I keep trying to astral project. That's, a great endeavor. But if you're having trouble, it just you need a few tips to make sure that you're going in the right direction, because it might really just be a legitimate, you need to know this one thing first, or you need to deal with this one thing in your life first so that it doesn't come out in the reading. I'm sure you do this too, where I need to meditate for a long time before I have a session with a client. Occasionally in an emergency, it's been a few minutes, but mostly I meditate these days for an hour every morning, if maybe half hour to an hour. But you got to be pretty clear to do this work, and by no means are we perfect. It's just
perfect.
So don't expect to be like you never stole anything.
And yes,
right. It's not like that, but you do have to be pretty honest with yourself to do this work, or it'll
you do.
Let you know.
Yes, they will. They will. They'll give you reading after reading with the same thing you're dealing with in your private life, and you're like, oh, for the love of God, okay, I get it. It's like, all right already. We are living parallel lives. Yeah, the third time I have a reading in 1 week with the same topic, I'm like, all right, I'll make a note. I hear you. I'll make a note, right? They can be very heavy-handed. So that's very interesting. So what would you say to people? Because I think the biggest thing, and I'm a little bit like this, like I went through a period of time where I could meditate all the time. And then I went through a period where I was not meditating as much or as long or as deeply. Do you have any tips for people? Because a lot of people say they don't like to meditate. I teach classes and people are like, I don't want to meditate. You know what I mean? Like they would rather just get up and go make themselves a cup of tea and come back when we're done. What would you say to people like that?
Wow. First of all, there's so many forms of meditation. And if your form of meditation looks like sitting by a river, great. What happens, and especially in the beginning of meditation, and let me tell you, I dabbled a little bit at 17, stopped for 10 years, dabbled a little bit more, stopped. I do that now because it's my job, not because I'm just super motivated to go meditate. It's like kicking and screaming. I know some people love yoga and they're just so, I am kicking and screaming. I will drag my body into there and then I'll feel great afterwards. But I don't want to get up at 6:15 and do yoga. I just don't. That's normal and you don't need to overdo it with that. But what happens when you first go in is like you're trying to not think about things. And what comes up? Oh, that really irritating person next door is playing their irritating music again. That's really irritating. And they're like, oh, I've missed it. I'm supposed to be meditating. Go back. And then you'd be like, God, that thing that my third grade teacher is saying, God, that still pisses me off. I hate that woman. And you're like, oh, I'm done. And you get back to all of that is actually kind of a process of just letting you know what's irritating or what's on your mind. I was 8 when I had the third grade teacher, but now at my age, she's still stuck in my head and she's still pissing me off. And it's like kind of going, why? Let me, now we know once I'm done with the meditation and I'm trying to get to, I notice these 10 things just keep coming up. And those are just things that I need to kind of work through. Why did she piss me off so much? What was it about her or that situation? And actually, she embarrassed me. Every time I'm embarrassed, I go back to that 8-year-old person.
Gosh,
Everyone does that. So don't think that like Dave Johnson is just like the great meditator and he just like, oh, doesn't work like that at all. It's the same process of sticky. Ugh, I remember that. Oh, these are memories I don't like. Oh God, that neighbor's irritating. Why am I irritated? Well, I'm actually a kind of person that's easily distracted. I need silence to work. That's who I am. That's okay. You just, for the first like 5 years, it's mostly this, wow, oh, this is what I think about. But you'll notice that you start thinking about some of these patterns that have been created. And that's all that you need to do. You don't need to astral project. I think that happened after, or maybe, I joined the Peace Corps and it's really, really hard. It's really, really difficult. I live in a country where I had no school. I had to teach English, no school books, no internet, no paper. It was just almost impossible to teach these classes and it all came out of my head and I had no experience either. So there was just so much stress in my life that I'm just like, I can't sleep at night. I gotta meditate. I meditate morning and night and all that stuff. I'd say after a year, I had a moment where I was like, I really stopped thinking there, right? And it took that much time, 15 years or so, before I really had that recognizable, I actually heard silence moment, right? All of those stages of those learning are important. So I think a lot of people think they're not meditating or they're doing it wrong because all these things keep coming up. Oh, I'm just a wimp. I'm not able to control my mind. They're supposed to come up. You're also supposed to go, I'll think about that later, right? I'll think about that later. And giving yourself that time to not worry about all those voices. And what will happen is you'll get to yourself and who you are and what really bothers you. And then you'll be able to start changing these patterns. Some people are absolutely like, I hate meditating. I'm never going to do it. But they listen to music. Yeah. Meilon, I love her. When I have a stressful day, I'm just like before a session, I just listen to Meilon. It's MEI-LAN. And she just sings music of the universe. There's a couple other people, I can't remember who they are. And that's how you get to you and you calm yourself down and you get to the meditation. Great. I know a young woman, she's 30, she's got the consciousness of a 60-year-old because she's just really good at kind of talking to herself. She's a very adult person. So wherever you're at with this stuff, just wherever you're at, people who play sports, sometimes they say when they get in a certain flow, they stop thinking. So that's how they get to their meditation. It might be different. And you wouldn't think this jock is meditating, but in a way,
that's an excellent point. Yeah. And they visualize, right? They pre-visualize
right.
going to the finish line. They pre-visualize the entire race. Right. So that's really meditating. And, painting, hobbies, playing music, gardening, walking, all those are meditating activities that you meditate. And when you meditate, that's, you mentioned you had this like download of the pyramid process that it came out of nowhere. That's what you get when you create space for your spirit guides to come through. They always show me like a freeway and the cars are like, back to back to back, bumper to bumper. And your spirit guides are on the on-ramp. the cars on the freeway are your thoughts. They can't get in, they can't merge. So doing those things creates space between the cars and allows your spirit guides to just merge in and drop the information to you.
Yeah. I never supposed that the problems, the issues, the things that you are working on in your life aren't spirit. They are. I used to think that, oh, when you're singing happy and everybody loves you, you must be doing the spiritual work because, you know, God's just like thanking you. That is such a Puritan idea, and it's totally not the truth. You know, if these issues are coming up with you, and, you know, maybe it's really hard, but you are dealing with them and confronting them, maybe you're negotiating some relationships to your family. That is spiritual work. Right? People
Very
totally
much so.
estimate themselves and they'll be like, well, I'm just, you know, trying to do my best. And you're like, okay, you're a nurse that's helping dying people move to the light every single day. Like, stop downgrading that. That is spirit. That is work. And relationships that you have with people, that is absolutely spiritual. And when I do past life regressions, nobody gets to the end of their life and says, I made this wonderful pile of money, or look what a crazy movie star I became. Wasn't that wonderful? They're always thinking to themselves, what did I accomplish in this life? And what were my relationships like? Always. It's so much more important that you get to your life and you're like, you were honest with yourself. Or maybe there was even just a simple moment where you did the right thing. That is what you will think about just before you pass. It won't be like, look at my wonderful furniture and my pile of cash and all my homes. Nobody's going to care about that. You're going to go, you know, I could have had a better relationship and could have worked on my greediness maybe a little bit more. And believe me, when you get to the spirit realm, they're like far less tough on you than you will be on yourself.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Absolutely.
There's no judgment. It's just, there's so much respect for us coming into this human body on this planet. They have so much respect for us because this is not the easiest planet to incarnate on. And there's a long line of souls that want to get here because of the wonderful things that this place offers as far as free will and free choice and all of that, and the range of experiences that are pretty much unmatched. So when you get over there, they're just like, it's a hero's welcome. It's a hero's welcome. And you're right. We're the ones that do the self, we watch our own movie and say, oh, I'm so glad I patched that up with that family member, or I'm so glad I forgave myself.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I started treating myself better. Again, this life is not about fixing anybody else. Please hear this. It's not about fixing your sister who won't talk to you, your son that won't talk to you, your husband. It's not about them. It's about you. When you love yourself and you start catching yourself up and pumping yourself up and cheerleading yourself, all those people will find the right place in your life. They'll either leave or they'll start treating you the way you're asking to be treated. Exactly. And it totally worked out in this way, as you've described for me too. Absolutely 100 worked out. So, maybe like an example would be when I first decided to stop being a teacher, and I'm like, somehow I'm going to move in. I don't know how I'm going to get this job in the spiritual realm, but I'm going to do it somehow. I was taking 15 minutes in the morning, getting up 15 minutes early just to meditate and actually do some physical therapy because I had a shoulder issue. And the whole time I'd be listening to, positive thinking videos, Abraham Hicks, and I was just watching all that stuff, watching them. And I was really kind of bringing in the energy to heal myself. I'm like, I can do this kind of for others. Why don't I do that for myself? And I got on the phone with a psychic. She was brilliantly good psychic. And she said, you weren't doing that for the shoulder, Dave. You were doing that for you. You were finally spending 15 minutes for yourself every day. Finally, after how many years? And I absolutely recommend this for everyone. Me getting my ass out of bed and going to yoga is doing something for myself. I'm kind of resistant. But once I get there, I'm like, oh, this is great. I mean, there's great people. They're all the people that I really like. I just moved a house away from the beach.
And
Nice.
every day, yeah, oh, it's just great. Only in Australia could you actually afford to live a house away from the beach. But there's this great ocean out here. It's totally safe to swim in. That's not like most Australian
I
oceans.
know.
Most places are super dangerous, but I happen to live in Adelaide where it's super, super safe. And every day I'd be like, if I go in the water, I'm going to get wet and, it'll be sandy and then I'll have to take a shower and I'll just sit there and I'll whine for half an hour. I go in the water and I'm just like, yes, oh my God, it's Mother Earth. And I just feel completely washed. It's like I don't have a gym membership anymore every day. I just have to talk myself to go in the water, and 2 minutes and my body adjusts to the coldness of the water, and it's just total freedom. This has happened every day for a month, but I still have to convince myself to do something for myself instead of watch another YouTube video. One thing I hope everybody takes away from this is the two of us, we're just like you guys. There really isn't that much more. Maybe we kind of made a more conscious decision to do work on YouTube, but we have the same issues, the same problems, the same, things going on with our country that everybody else does. We make it look easy because that's the magic of the video. It isn't. It is work.
No, it's not. It's work.
I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
No, I love it too.
But it is work. And every day, I'm sure this is true for you, we're like, oh yeah, I gotta ground more. Yeah, gotta do more protection every single day. We run into these clients, as you've discussed, who are like, have the exact same problem with us. And then we find ourselves giving the advice and we're like, oh yeah, Dave, you really should listen to your advice.
Oh my God. Because you know what? I'm giving them, spirit is, so I channel when I'm doing my readings, and spirit's giving them advice. And I'm like, oh, this is going to happen to me if I don't do this. You know what I mean? Basically, take that advice and apply it to you, Susan. Do you want this to happen to you? I'm like, no, I don't want it to happen to me. So you get into that resistance. It's human, right? We're human. We're very human. We're not gurus. We're not anybody special. We're just dealing with stuff the same way you are.
Well, if we're raised in American capitalist society, anything that goes wrong is your fault.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. It's like, people talked about my, grandparents in the 1930s and stuff like that, and the things that they did wrong that made them poor. And it's just like, it was the 1930s. Everybody was poor. They couldn't control that, right? We're always told that everything that happens is somehow our mistake. Well, maybe it's just kind of supposed to happen, and the only thing we can do is react, and maybe just okay might be the best that we could do right now. More I go through these things, the more I realize, all those mistakes, they were just bringing me to here. I mean, I tried to be a lawyer. I mean, can you imagine a disaster that would have been? But I'm glad that I did, because it was so not me that the one day when I did shamanic journeys, I was so good at it. As opposed to law, where I was getting a C-. And that's all of you. If you're making mistakes, do not beat yourself up over them.
No.
We're so taught that a mistake is because we're stupid, or we should have thought about that, or we should have prepared that. In this time, we're being forced into the unknown. There's no way it's going to be perfect. And we're being, what would I rather do today? Well, I'd rather do something I'm really good at and familiar with, and I can't go wrong, and I'm an authority, right? When you're going out into the space that we're going in, it's hard to say who's an authority here.
There's no instruction manual, there's
no manual. Yeah, it's exciting.
A lot of faith and a lot of trust.
Yeah, you have to really believe it.
And believe in yourself and trust in yourself. And you can go back, and this is really helpful too. You can go back to your life and look at those times where bad things happen, but you got through them. So sometimes it just helps to remind yourself, I did go through this, and look, I came out, and I'm better, and I'm better for it. I'm a better person. You just have to remind yourself of your wins instead of the losses. Look at it from a little bit of a different angle.
Yeah, I always take people through it when I'm teaching people how to channel. I always take them through a process where I go, Like, okay, you're 70. See yourself at 60. And no judging you at 60. You might see yourself wearing the clothes of 60, but see yourself learning what you are learning at 60. And I will always go, no judgments here. All mistakes were just bringing you to where you are now. And people often like really physically see like the clothing they're wearing, and they'll get one word: teaching, parenting, cooking, whatever it is. They'll get some kind of meaning for that moment. It's never, oh, that stupid mistake. It's always
brilliant.
me learning. I've been making mistakes. You didn't make mistakes, you'd go nowhere. You'd just be a homebound person, you know? Be glad you're not super rich. Super rich, you might be really tempted to not learn anything in this lifetime.
Oh, that's so true. That is so true. That's so true. It would certainly be a harder, ask,
Really
because
hard.
you're surrounded by yes people too. So you're never wrong, even if you are wrong. So that makes it even harder to learn those lessons. That's a really good point. Yeah. Very cool.
So, very wealthy people have a very high rate of drug addiction and alcoholism. Because they don't need to work. There's nothing to work for.
There's nothing.
All you're going to do is top your rich neighbor, right? There's nothing else to really do. Another vacation, it's a little bit like Great Gatsby. They're careless rich people. There's no reason for them to care.
There's no reason to really strive or do anything. That's such a good point. That's such a great point.
And I had that lifetime, and I was so bored. When I did my first past life regression, I had, maybe not super rich, but I didn't have to work. I was just kind of a housewife in that lifetime. And I looked at that lifetime for it, I'm like, oh, great, it's going to be easy. I'm going to have a big house. Oh, it's going to be great. And then I was living that lifetime, I'm like, this sucks. There is nothing to do except like watch the grain move on the farm, right? There's just literally nothing. I have an empty relationship. Lost my child. It was just no more children. There's nothing. It was so boring. And right after I've had this regression, I opened the door onto San Francisco with absolute total chaos. I didn't have the money to take the train all the way. I had to ride my bike, take my bike on the train to get to Oakland, where I now lived. And I was just like, this is what I wanted.
My God, that's awesome. What an amazing experience. So what do you think your lesson was in that life where it was boring? That it was boring? I mean, do you think your soul sometimes chooses a life where it's like, I just need like a chill life, or is there a bigger meaning there?
I think there was a simple lesson to learn in that life, maybe more than one. One of them was that people shouldn't be a means to an end. And that's one thing that I've learned a couple of lifetimes, that people should not be a means to an end. So I think in that lifetime, it wasn't like I didn't love my partner, but the past life regression guy was really good. He's like, what attracted you to him? I'm like, oh, I went to a game of a bridge party and he was wearing a gold ring.
And that was
like,
it.
So it wasn't that I didn't love him, but I didn't truly love him in the way that I could have. It was easy, it was easier to be this partner. And I anticipated an easy life where I wouldn't have to be the actor, where I would just kind of react to the things that happened. This partner had an affair. It was very obvious that he was having an affair. In this lifetime, I only had one child because I was pregnant with my second and miscarried. And while I miscarried, he was off with his girlfriend. Oh. So I basically, could never have children again. And then my child died in World War II. Miserable life, which if you looked at it, you'd go, big house, what are you complaining about? All you have to do is clean the house once in a while. You could actually pay someone to do it if you wanted.
Wow.
So when I got there, it was just like, just one little lesson that you needed to learn in this lifetime. And that is to be more assertive in humanness, right? In what you wanted, but also, it wasn't really totally ethical. I didn't make a choice. It wasn't love first.
It wasn't heart-centered.
Yeah.
And then you lost your husband or the sanctity or whatever you want to call it. And then you lost your child. And then you lost everything.
Right.
I mean, it was a hit to the heart. 1, 2, 3.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the house no longer mattered. And like, imagine you could be the poorest person in the world. If you're in love, who cares?
You don't
You
care.
know,
You're
who
right.
cares?
You're right. Yeah.
And you could be the richest person in the world, but if your relationship is something you cannot work out, then you're not going to be happy. So I think that was just a very practical lesson. Money doesn't give you what you want. It's not like money is bad, but it's not going to solve your problems.
It's not
I
going to solve
do
them.
also think several lifetimes have been like, Dave, you got to get out there. You got to get out there more. You got to be independent. You got to be who you are and accept the risk.
And here you are doing it.
Yes, here I am. Finally,
In this life.
Yes, finally did it. And it has been really challenging. I've been very poor in my life. And I've been in very difficult situations in my life, really difficult. Somebody asked me, I took Aikido in my first semester of college. I have had to use Aikido in self-defense several times, maybe 3 times. Somebody attempted to mug me. And in each of those times, I'm not good at it. I just did my simple Aikido move and moved on.
That was good enough.
Well, the third time, they often, tried to use a lighter and made me think that it was a gun. And I did my Aikido move and I threw him in the street. And I said to him, I'm an American. I was in Amsterdam at the time. I said, I'm an American. You want to mug me? You need to use a real gun. It's not like it's all rainbows and roses for you and I. Yeah, so, this lifetime, in the beginning, I was like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Why is this not working? I keep failing. I'm not making any money. I just had a great guy read my astrology chart and tell me all that was totally predictable. But, it really had a lot of struggle finding, you and I, it's like, what is our career? Like, how we kind of see the future sometimes. Like, how does that translate into any kind of job we were raised to do? No. 0 jobs, maybe therapist. Like, that's as close as we could get. And, it is for a lot of us, all of these struggles, these problems. Then when I started doing this job, it's like all of those jobs that I had completely make sense now.
Yes.
Just studying English.
Weird as they are, as completely different as they are to what you're doing now, they still make, it's like puzzle pieces.
Yeah. I mean, an English teacher had no problem speaking in public. You having been a photographer, I'm sure it's the same way. Like you have.
Yeah. It's basically like performing. You're trying to get a bunch of people to stand together that don't like each other and smile at the camera.
Yes. Yeah, there you go.
High stakes.
Okay. Yeah.
Be a fist fight every once in a while. I mean, this is Texas. This was before the proliferation of guns. I wouldn't do it now to save my life. I mean, really and truly, I wouldn't. But, but yeah, I mean, seriously, you're right. It's funny when you look back on it, it all makes sense. And that's why I think our guides, our spirit guides, our angels don't sweat it. They don't sweat it. They just love us so much. And they know, and they scared me one time when they said, oh, it's fine. You can do this again. I mean, you can have another life. These lives are real quick. I'm like, I don't want to do it again. I'll fix it in this one. I'll work double. But they were so nonchalant, like, just come back and do it again. I'm like, no, I'm not going to come back and do it again.
Yeah. Well, it also seems to me, again, when I do past life regressions, that there's just like, you were pretty good at this. You were really good at that. You're really, really good at that. This one needs a little work. So it's just like, okay, in this lifetime, focus a little bit more on that, that aspect of the nature. It's always a good question too, because then, every mistake that anybody's making, we might look at people who are really doing terrible things right now and understand that's also their path.
That's also
right. It might be their path is to create trouble and yours is to deal with them. That's right. They are Judas, you are Jesus. That's just the way that they are there for a reason to help you. Trump is there for a reason to help us. He is making all of this happen, all of this possible. I'm not giving him any credit. I'm giving you credit, but I'm giving your viewers credit. But that it would not have happened in the way that it did. We would not be speaking right now without the political turmoil of our times. So, It doesn't mean those guys are justified in what they're doing, but it is serving a purpose for us to learn.
So right.
And I think that's how we get something out of this, right? Is whatever's happening in your world, however difficult it is, notice what you're getting out of it, the knowledge, that useful knowledge, that if you're speaking to God right now, you say, I know this, 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 and this. I know a lot of you go, oh, no, I don't know anything. Well, I don't care if you know how to sew, you know something. I don't care if you know how to help a lady across the street, you know a lot. Don't discredit all those great things that you've done and let them be outweighed by other things. And don't give extra power to those people like it's inevitable or I'm helpless. Bad enough as it is.
That's true. That's true. You know, it's such a good point you make. It's true. It's like, if it wasn't for this crazy political situation we're in, I wouldn't be doing this work and I wouldn't be talking to you. And all of our viewers wouldn't have done all the work they've done, all the hair pulling out and all the anxiety and the worry. And then they've come to this place where they're in this new understanding of, we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, if you just, it's an amazing journey we've been on for the last, say, 4 or 5 years. And we have a lot to show for it. We have a lot to show for it.
And I can't tell you how many people are like, I never had these experiences before, but now I'm starting to dream the future, or now I'm starting to feel energy in my hands, or now I feel very drawn towards certain kinds of people and I just don't feel drawn to others right now. That is huge, huge, huge thing in our society, in our evolution. You know, if nothing else, now we know who we want to hang out with. You know, maybe it was not clear before, it was just a big party, but now we're just kind of like, yeah, not really, you're fine, but I'd rather spend my time with someone else. And that's just being expressed. You know, maybe some of the family ties are there, but you just don't want to spend as much time with those people because they're taking away your energy. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, no one would ever have said, just stop speaking to them. Now it's just, it really has become, some of them are so toxic that we have to just love from a distance. And that is one thing I would tell everybody is totally okay, right? If you need to take a break from your family, that is okay. If it's important to you, spend a moment in the morning thinking of them and sending love to them, even though they drive you crazy. That's the connection that you wish to make now. And then, you know, see, it might be that those relationships are transformed, and it might be that they on their own are learning something really important, that by being the nice person we were preventing them from learning. It takes a lot of strength to do that. And I know a lot of people are pulling on that strength. And I also know that they need help, and you should, by all means, find like people like us, you know, who will say, wow, I had that experience too, or I love that about you, or whoever, whatever you can do to find people who are on a journey that is somewhat similar to yours. It will be helpful friends that you'll have for the rest of your life. I'm friends with every group I went shamanic journeying with, every single one of them. And that kind of intimate work, it just creates profound relationships that really, really, really help. First of all, you're just like, oh, I'm not crazy. Okay. You know, that's essential, I think, in the process. But we are being torn apart. Give everybody, like, give yourself a pat on the back. You really are having this experience. And many of you are right in the middle of working it out. And it might seem really stressful and hopeless. It is also constantly asking you, do you trust your heart? Do you trust your heart? Do you trust your intuition? Do you trust spirit? Are you willing to trust it even beyond the rational? You know, I just like, I was crazy to move to Australia with someone I'd known for a year and ship all my stuff here. I was just totally nuts. But I knew in my heart it was the right thing to do. And I knew that I wasn't being motivated by some kind of unconscious jumps. I'd gotten that far in my life and experienced that I'd figured that out. And all of us are figuring that out right now.
That's awesome. And trust that everything can be okay. You know, trust that that you're safe. On top of the heart, trust that you're safe. Work on that. I am safe. I am, taken care of. I'm worthy. I'm loved. Those kinds of affirmations will be really helpful. Dave, do you have some classes you're teaching? I mean, we're getting ready to go into a new year. Are you teaching classes, or is it all on your website?
It's all on my website. Mostly people have, I've done it differently, but mostly people have a one-on-one class. So if you just go to my website and you look for channeling classes, you can. Some people just choose regular channeling or mediumship, and I do that. Sometimes I morph from one to the other. Some people choose past life regressions. That's a really life-changing experience. It does take a bit more time and money, but that is absolutely life-changing stuff. But learning to channel can be very life-changing too. There's a few people who still work with me for shamanic journeys, which I do one-on-one. But all of that you'll see in my website. It's kind of funny. People tend to go for one school for a while, and then they'll switch to another, and then switch to another. I'm maybe perhaps unusual in that I do a bunch of different things. As that has evolved. It wasn't like that 5 years ago.
I love that. I love that you do all those different things. So you guys, I will be putting his stuff, all the website, everything will be in the description of this video. So just look there and do me a favor and go to his channel, his Moonride channel on YouTube, and subscribe, because you don't want to miss out on this. And you do political videos, but you also do a lot of different types of videos, and you do collaborations. I mean, he has a very varied channel with a lot of great content. So you're gonna really enjoy that. If you're not a subscriber, it's a really good time to go do that. And gift yourself something nice for the holidays. Maybe get a reading, start your 24 off with the gift of this kind of exploration, this kind of spiritual exploration and growth. And he's absolutely right. When you do those regressions, it feels like you do. And it feels like you just move forward in your life by leaps and bounds. It's almost as if you did 6 months worth of therapy in one session. I don't know why, but it just does. It just takes you from here to there. It's absolutely worth everything. And the times that I've done it have been profound leaps in my own self-assuredness. My own anxieties come down, my understanding, my spirituality has grown. It's just super good. It's just like some kind of superfood for the soul or something.
It is. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I'm gonna steal that from you if that's okay.
Go ahead. Yeah. That was the guides. I'm a gardener, so they were just showing me that stuff I use called superfood, and they were like, "You just put this on your soul." I'm like, "That's toxic," but okay, I get what you're saying. I have interpreted your message into human. So I know you have a session coming up, so I don't want to run over, but I could talk to you for hours.
I know.
Thank you
Let's do it
so
again.
much for being on my channel.
Okay, I'm gonna invite you onto yours pretty soon, because this was just great. It's always great to talk to you, Susan.
No, I appreciate that so much. And I'll tell you, I know this now without a doubt. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing in 24, 25, and you never know. Our paths might cross in real time, in reality, not on Zoom. So I'm going to hold space for that. And I would love that. And we'll definitely be doing more collaborations in the future.
Absolutely.
If you're up for it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on, and all the compliments. I love your channel.
Thank you so much, dear. Everybody take really good care of yourselves. As I like to tell you, it's really important. And we'll see you again real soon.
Love to y'all.